Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited for this podcast today. And before we get started, and I even tell you the topic, if you've been enjoying our podcast, if Revive has been enabling and empowering you to find your way, I want you to smash that like button and make sure you hit the notification and also share it with somebody. Today's podcast is really going to be an insightful and needed podcast. We're going to be talking about buying a home, and we're going to entitle this today, Getting Ready to Buy a Home. Now that is a thought, because most people are overwhelmed in thinking about purchasing a vehicle, and now we're talking about purchasing a house. Some people think that that is such a far reach from them. Like, I can never buy a house, and yet they're wasting time renting when they could be purchasing. We're going to go through all the steps in how to get yourself ready. And I'm going to be very fundamental here, because we're going to take the position here that from this video, it's providing the instructions of how to prepare yourself to buy a home, because your home is going to be the largest asset that you will purchase. And your home is your sanctuary. It is a place of safety. It is a place for family, for memories, and so forth. And I want you to know that the Bible identifies part of the blessing is that God would give us homes. The Bible says in Deuteronomy chapter number 6, verse number 11, that when we go into the land of promise, that God would give us homes we didn't build. He even said he would furnish them. So God is talking about us being homeowners. Jesus said in Mark chapter 10, verse number 30, that anyone that has left family or had to sacrifice for me and give things up, he said he would bless them with homes. So it's very important that you understand that God wants to bless you with a home. But if you're going to be a homeowner, you're going to have to be a responsible person. You're going to have to grow up. The Apostle Paul says that when I was a child, I acted like a child. But when I became an adult, I grew up. And part of growing up is maturity. And maturity is responsibility. Now, you have to have a plan if you're going to purchase a home. Because the first thing you have to understand is this, is that in purchasing a home, you're going to have at least 2 years of stable income, because your lender would be the bank that's going to be providing the funds to purchasing the house. They're going to want to make sure that you have been employed for at least 2 years in the same place. And what this does, it provides credibility that you are trustworthy to be able to make the payments in buying a home. So the first thing is this, is make sure that you have a place of employment and that you're working there for at least 2 years. And there's different types of loans that you can acquire, and there's different lenders that you can seek out. I want you to understand that the bank where you have your checking account, is a lender. You can talk to them and ask them, hey, I've been banking here for X amount of time, and I'm interested in purchasing a home. What are the interest rates? And that's going to be very important. And at the time of this present video, the interest rates just dropped 1%. They were at around 7.4. Now they're at 6.4. And because it's an election year, it's going to continue to drop. So the market is becoming a buyer's market. And so that's a very good thing here. And you have to know the right season in buying a home, because sometimes it's a buyer's market for wholesale. Sometimes it's a buyer's market for purchasing a home for home ownership, not investment. And so this is very significant. But the tides are turning, and people that want to buy a house, things are starting to look up for them. So you seek out a lender, And what I want to make sure that you do is that you're looking at 3 or 4 different places because you want them to compete against themselves because you want to get the best price. A lot of times you can talk to family members, neighbors, do a Google search, see who's got some credibility, someone that's competent, and you want someone that's competent and that has credibility in what they're doing as far as being a lender. And you're going to want to make sure to understand where your credit score is. Your credit score is very, very significant. Sometimes when people are young, they're a little irresponsible with their credit score. And that's going to determine what type of loan you're going to be able to get. You know, if you filed bankruptcy, if you've got a lot of debt and so forth, and you damage your credit, you may have to do a credit cleanup and clean up your credit score. But you're going to want to make sure that minimally you have a credit score at 600, minimally, if they're even going to consider that. But if you can have a higher credit score, 700, 750, 800 would be next to perfect. The better the credit score, the better the interest rate you're going to get. And let me give you some advice here as well. Never assume the debt of somebody else. Never co-sign for somebody. Because when you co-sign for somebody, if they default on whatever that asset is, whatever they purchase, then you're going to be responsible for paying their debt. And you don't want to put yourself in that type of position because if you purchase a home, that's going to be a large payment that you're going to have to pay. And if you assume someone else's debt, it's going to set you back. So just be careful with that. That's just a little commercial for the overall idea of preparing your credit. So let's move on here. You want to make sure that your credit score is ample. So I'm going to say here at least 700. If your credit score is at least 700, this is going to put you in a unique position. You may say, I need to be able to build my credit. How do I build my credit? What you begin to do is this. Now, if you've got debt, go to a credit cleanup, have them begin to clean that up. Once you're certain debt on there, they have to be able to remove that every year, annually. You can get your credit score. And what you can begin to do is this. What I did when I was young, I purchased a credit card. And I think I had like maybe $1,200 limit on that credit card. Well, every month I would max out the credit card and then I would pay it off. And so when I did that, it began to give me credibility that every time I would borrow the money, I would pay it back. So my credit score began to increase because my credit card went from an allotment of $1,200. That thing grew to $50,000 because I was using it in my construction company. That's just how a means that I was using, strategizing in purchasing things and paying it off, but never accumulating debt. You don't want debt on a credit card, but you want to be able to use your credit card to build your score. Pay all your bills. Be responsible. Be responsible at work. Make sure you're there for at least 2 years. Make sure your credit score is right. And then as you begin to move through that, then you're going to have to begin to consider, okay, what is my budget? It's one thing, what do I want? But another thing, the reality, what is my budget? Because when you're going to buy a house, you don't want any more than 30% of your income to go towards that house. 30% of your income. So looking at that there, let's just say someone hypothetically makes $2,000 a month. And if they're going to want to purchase a house, you want $500 to go towards the debt of that house or the payment of that house. Because you're going to have other expenses. Some people think, oh, I'm going to buy a house. This is great. I'm just going to have to make my house payment and that's it. But there's other things to consider. You're going to have taxes, property taxes. You're going to have to be paying NIPSCO. You got your gas. You're going to have to be doing maintenance on the house, different things like that. I know it sounds overwhelming, but it's not. It comes with the territory. Because you have to understand, when you measure renting versus purchasing, when you purchase something, you're going to have an asset, something that's going to be yours. And that asset is going to continue to appreciate 10% a year. When you're renting, you don't have an asset. You're just doing that. You're renting. So you're not going to have anything at the end of the year. Once you finish out that lease at the end of the year, you don't own anything. You spent all of that money. And so what I like to do is to tell people to get ready to buy a house. And sometimes what's good to do is if you've got a family member or someone and you're really serious and they see that you're stable, maybe you can move in with somebody and say, hey, I'm going to save money to buy a house. And in doing so, if I can move into your basement, I can live there. This is going to give me the opportunity to begin to save. And what you're doing is you're going to save for a down payment. You're going to save for a rainy day. You're working on your credit score. You're working on talking to lenders. You're going to get pre-approved when you find out what you're looking for. Explore it. Take your time. Don't rush this. Patience is a virtue, but you have to have patience in purchasing a house. And I'm going to tell you from experience, I remember when I was a young man looking for our first home, and we were just looking everywhere. It just seemed like we just couldn't find the house that what we wanted and what we qualified for. And it came to such a point because 6 months into it, I found a house. It was just a shack, if you will. But it had large property. I thought, I'll buy this house eventually. I'll tear it down and I'll build something on it. And I took my mother there and she looked at it and she says, what's wrong with you? You guys are desperate here. This is not your house. God's going to bless you with a nicer home, something that you're not going to have to just waste time or over-invest in. And which was wise counsel. And so I'm going to say how important that is as well, that you do have wise counsel. You're going to want to seek out a consultant, if you will. Someone has some experience in purchasing a house. You're going to want to seek out a realtor, a competent realtor. And obviously, you're going to have your lender that I told you about. And you're going to want to get pre-approved. And so hypothetically, you get pre-approved for a loan of $200,000. You can purchase a house for $200,000. They're going to give you the best interest rate. And let's just say that interest rate is, as of now, 6%. And so now you're moving closer towards purchasing a home. You're getting things in order. You're getting yourself in order. You're getting excited. And you're scouring the area looking to purchase a home. Don't be apprehensive to repeatedly contact the realtor or see a house. Don't be obligated in purchasing a house. Look at the house. Consider what you're doing. Talk it over with your spouse. Make sure that when you become serious about purchasing the home, that you're going to seek out somebody to do a home inspection. Now, there's home inspectors out there. Again, your realtor will be able to inform you, the competent ones, the ones that are very efficient at what they do. And you're going to have to do a home inspection. And that's going to cost you anywhere between $400 to $800, depending on who it is. But that is going to protect you. Because when you see the home, you have to understand that many times when someone is selling a home, they're actually selling a problem. They're tired of the home. Oh, the house needs a roof. I'm just going to sell the house. I don't want to deal with it. Oh, the basement's leaking in the house. It's going to cost a lot of money to fix. I just want to sell the home. I don't want to deal with the problem. The house needs a driveway, et cetera, et cetera. But many times someone is selling a problem. And so you don't just want to purchase a person's problem. You want to be informed of what you are purchasing. So the home inspector will be able to do a thorough job giving you an inspection. They'll look through the whole house. I'll give you an example. There was a home that I purchased, loved the home, was going to buy it, was excited about buying a house, was negotiating on what the price was going to be. And then I made the contract subject to a home inspection. And anytime you make a contract in purchasing a house, you always make sure you put the contract, your realtor is going to write that contract, and it will say subject to an inspection. and subject to financing. It's very important that those two things are there, because that's going to give you an out if you're not going to buy the home. You just don't want to sign a contract and you're obligated to buy the home. You buy the home, the house needs a roof. You buy the home, the basement's leaking. No, the home inspection will be a thorough inspection where the inspector will go through everything, and you want them. You want to know, how old is a hot water tank in this house? How old is this furnace? Has there been any problems? What are the maintenance? What's the history of responsibility with that? How old is the roof? And like I said, I was purchasing a house. They told me the age of the roof, but the roof was good. And when I went in and did the inspection, I found out that there were parts of the roof that were leaking, and there were things that needed to be changed. And I still wanted the house, but now it gave me leverage because I was able to discount the house. So now here you are, you're able to get a discount for whatever the damages are to the house. A lot of times when people purchase a home, they don't understand that the windows on the home, the window panes are broken, and that's the seal in between the window, and there's moisture there. And if that's the case, then you could understand that now that home needs windows, and now you have leverage that you can reduce the price of the house. Now, when you're going to offer a price in buying a house, you don't just offer the full amount. Someone's asking, you're approved for $200,000. And again, you may see a house and it's $225,000. And you think, I need more money. No, you stay within your means through the home inspection. You recognize what's the wiggle room. How much latitude will they give you where they'll concede? And you make sure that your realtor understands your budget and where you're at. They're there to help you. They're there to support you. I had someone that wanted to buy a house. They were so desperate, and they were approved for a certain amount, and they were trying to get this house. And the realtor was telling you, well, don't worry about that. You can go ahead. You can still get this. We can do this. And they're going to put themselves upside down and buying a house. You don't want to put yourself upside down. You want to understand there is what is called a starter home. And your starter home is your first home. And one thing, it's your home. And it's going to appreciate 10% a year. You may buy your first house and live there for the first 5 years. Then after those 5 years, you'll be able to sell that home and that house, because it appreciate, you have equity in the house. So you may buy a house and you were approved, and that house was $200,000. You live there for 5 years, and you consider the appreciation 10% of the $200,000, and in just a very short time, you have $10,000 worth of equity that you can sell that house, and there you are, $10,000 more that can go towards the next purchase of your house. But you do things within wisdom. You don't do things rushed. You don't go into the home impulsively. You have to really, really consider what you're doing here. Don't be overwhelmed. Everyone is in this situation here. You just follow the steps, and what that's going to do, it's going to help you have a game plan, because what you're doing, you're getting yourself ready to buy a house. So let's look at that. There's different types of loans that you can consider in buying a house. Now, if you served in our military, that's great, because you can get a VA loan. That means you don't have to put anything down in purchasing the house. That's wonderful. The government offers you that. So if you're, again, served in the military, you'll be able to get a loan with no money down. There's what is called a conventional loan. Now, a lot of time people push, do the conventional loan. You don't really want to do a conventional loan if you don't have to, because you have to come up with 20% of the money for a conventional loan. And 20% of $200,000 is a lot of money, and it's going to take people a lot of time to be able to save that. But what you can do an FHA loan, Federal Housing Association, and you only have to put down 3.5% on that loan. That's very doable for people. And I want you to know, you think about it, that if you're renting right now, you may be renting, and I know rent is kind of elevated. Rent right now, you may be in a one-bedroom apartment. You may be paying $1,500 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, depending where you're at, $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Did you know you could have your own home? And you can buy that home, and the same amount of money that you're spending renting, you can buy a home that's yours, a home that is bigger. Now, understand this here. Just because you get the loan, you get pre-approved, it's $200,000. There may be some improvements in that house that you're wanting to do. Everyone buys a house, I want to repaint the house, or I want to change this floor, or certain things you may want to do. Now, if the house, again, had some type of damages that were discovered, hot water tanks always get ready to go out, subject to, what means they have to change all those items and correct all of that, or reduce the price, and everything is negotiable. Don't think everything is not negotiable. People will go in, they just want to pay for everything right off. No, it's always negotiable. And you can always go up. You cannot come back down. So if you're approved for $200,000 and you're going in to buy the house, you're not going to see the person, they're selling the house, they're advertising it. We're selling it for $205,000. Don't tell them, I'll give you $205,000. Negotiate it. Feel it out. Offer them $175,000. How long has that house been on the market? If the house just got on the market, well, then there's not a lot of leverage that you have. And if you really want to have that house, you have to determine that. But what your realtor will give you is a comparative market analysis. And what that is, it allows you to know the value of the homes in the whole area. And you want that because you want to know what the value of the homes in the areas are. They'll take 6 months, the houses that sold in that area in the last 6 months. Let's just say the home that you're looking at, they're wanting 205, and they say a home's just like that. They only sold for $175,000. And so that home to them, they may think it's worth $205,000. But your realtor can show the comparative market analysis to the sellers and say, look, in the last 6 months, these are the homes that have sold. 5 of them, just like yours, they sold only for $175,000. Your home is only worth $175,000. And so they have to come to grips with that. And if the windows panes are broken, the house needs new windows, that can be discounted. Now they got to take off another $10,000. Now here's a good thing. They can take off the $10,000. You can buy that home. Doesn't mean you have to change the windows, because the pane may be broken in the window, and all that means is there's going to be moisture there, but you're not going to lose any energy. The windows are still functional, so you can buy yourself some time. You can use that $10,000. You can keep that in the bank. Don't go and say, I'm going to buy all new furniture. Put it in the bank. Save it. Because you're going to want to make sure that you have a surplus of about 6 months of income, just in case something happens. You need wisdom in purchasing a house. Okay, let's go kind of through these steps here. In preparing yourself for purchasing a home, you want to make sure you're working for at least 2 years of where you're working. Number 2, you need to make sure that you have good credit. Credit that's going to allow you to get a good interest rate. Thirdly, you want to make sure that you seek out your lender. You want to look at about 3 lenders and talk to them. Have them compete against each other. Your place which you bank, you should have the best relationship, so you can talk to them about that. Also, you want to make sure you have a good home inspector, and you're going to do a home inspection. The home inspection is very, very significant. Take your time out. Look at the homes. If you have any apprehension in buying the home, if it's not what you want, keep looking until you find what you want. Now, also, I want you to consider the buying market. Where is the market at? Is the market getting better? There's another thing that now, because it's an election year and what have you, first-time homeowners are going to be offered an opportunity. Well, they'll be able to get a grant for $25,000 that'll go through the purchase of their first home. That can help you in purchasing a home. You've got to research these things out. You got to look at these things. You have to talk to people about exploring these things here. And again, talk it over with your spouse. Talk it with your realtor. Talk it over with some people that have some experience in purchasing a house. But you can purchase a house. It'll be your home. And then also, what you can do, you can make the repairs based on the fact of the home, that if you get a loan, you get a loan that where you're going to add a little extra money towards the remodeling of that home. Maybe with the windows there, you get the $10,000, but you don't use that to purchase the new windows. You're going to be content with the windows. You may have to buy some furniture. You may have to change some carpet. All this stuff is negotiable. These are things that people do in buying a house. But in the end, when you go and you sign that contract, make sure you feel good about that. Because when they give you those keys, guess what? That house is yours. You can do this here. And I'm here to help you find your way. I'm here to assist you, giving you insights in how to purchase a home. Well, I hope today that you've enjoyed this podcast and that it has helped you and provided strategies towards purchasing a home. Don't forget, like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next podcast. If the podcast today has blessed you and you see great value in it, I'd like for you to like and subscribe and make sure you share it with somebody. Help us revive someone else's life. Thank you.